you a question?
What?
What you need, cuz?
We're not going to talk about the elephant in the room.
We
We're not
can't.
talking about it.
Because of the legal situation.
Okay.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 15, Episode 2. And before we get started, I want to say, can we all just give a round of applause to the good folks at Bravo for making sure that Marlo got little to no scenes in this episode. It was a pleasure that I didn't see her for more than 30 seconds. And for that, I am eternally grateful. And let's keep that up. Because you guys know how I feel about Marlo. I don't like her. I think that she has a nasty attitude, a nasty spirit, and the less I see of her, the better. I think that we need to really just keep Shereé in prayer because Shereé does not want to do any self-reflection and see why is she so emotionally stunted at her age. The fact that she's doing the most over Martell says a lot. But we're going to talk about all that in just a few minutes, y'all. I have a lot to say, as you guys can see. And without further ado, let's just jump right on into this recap because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. Now, this episode starts off right where we left it last week, with everybody at Ross's party. And of course, it's about to go down between Kenya and Shereé because Kenya has just told Shereé the news that Martell used to be in her DMs just a few months ago. So you have Shereé saying, well, how long was this? Let me see. And Kenya says, hold on now, girl. It was 6 months ago. He slid in them. I ignored him, but I want to give you the heads up because that's what girls do. Now, I still stand by my stance in my last recap that if I were Kenya, I wouldn't have said anything. It didn't go anywhere. We know that Shereé likes to pick out losers. So why even say anything when Shereé's going to be mad at you and not the man? Shereé is not a girl's girl. She is one of those women who will always pick a man over her friends. So just for that reason alone, I would have kept my mouth shut if I were Kenya. So now Martell comes over. Shereé is filling him in on what just happened. She's like, yeah, Martell, they're telling me that you're dealing with some other women in Atlanta. So of course Martell denies it. He's talking about, well, every time I'm here, I'm with you every weekend. So the other woman is obviously getting the short end of the stick. I'm like, when it comes to a cheater can be with you all the time and still find a few hours to cheat. So him spending the weekends with you in Atlanta, Shereé, means nothing. We all know his track record. He cheated on his ex-wife and his mistress. So please don't get gassed talking about, well, he spends all this time with me. It's like, Shereé, you're too old to be so delusional. You really are. Then you have Shereé talking about, oh, here goes Candy's minions trying to ruffle my feathers. And it's like, Shereé, nobody's out to get you. People are just trying to warn you like, hey sis, you might want to slow down because Martell is up to no good. And I think it's so interesting that Shereé wants to talk about somebody trying to ruffle her feathers and start trouble when Shereé is the ultimate bone collector and proud to stir up mess and be an instigator. So it's okay when she bothers other people, but when somebody else gets messy with her, now it's a problem. I can't stand the double standards. Shereé, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If the shoe were on the other foot, we all know that Shereé would be talking about, yeah, girl, your man is out here, according to the blogs, dipping it and doing it with all these other women. Like, we know how Shereé operates. So for her to be mad because people are giving her information about her man, it's like, Shereé, please sit down. And then Martell goes on to tell Monyetta that this other woman never existed. I'm like, sure, Jan. Whatever you say, Martell. Anybody who believes Martell is an idiot. There's no other way to say it. Now, while that's going down between Kenya, Shereé, and Martell, we now see Sonya walk over to Candy, and she's like, hey, Candy, how are you? Are you all right? What just happened? Because remember, in last week's episode, Courtney and Candy got into it, and you have Courtney acting like she wanted to fight. So Candy's like, I don't even know this woman. She's in my face. So here goes Sonya talking about, oh, well, I met her last week at Shereé's house. And Sonya, I'm about to go in on you because I think that you're very boring. You're very spineless. You have no backbone. You're very two-faced. You want to be Switzerland all the time. It's annoying. The fact that you're with the losing team, i.e. Marlo and Shereé, says a lot. And any decent person would have given Candy the heads up that you had met this woman who didn't seem to care for her and said, hey girl, just so you know, I invited this woman named Courtney. Do you know her? Because last week she was saying X, Y, and Z about you, and I don't want you to feel blindsided. But of course, Mushmouth Sonya can't do that. And I loved how Candy clocked it. She was like, you have me walking into your party knowing that somebody's here who I don't even know doesn't like me? Like, at least give me the heads up. And I agree. Don't have me out here looking stupid. And that's why I don't like Sonya. Because Sonya's very messy. She likes to straddle the fence. And you really can't trust her. You don't know whose side she's on. Sonya also gives wannabe, very try-hard, desperate energy, in my opinion. Like, this needs to be her last season. I tried to give her a chance last season, but this season I'm like, no, this can be her last season. I'm cool. And that's no shade, but everybody's not cut out for reality TV. She's just not entertaining. So now we see Kenya and Marietta walk over to Candy, and they're like, girl, what happened? So Candy's like, this girl, Courtney, I don't even know her. She's in my face talking loud. And Kenya was like, yeah, she is very animated when she talks. And I'm like, Courtney is beyond animated. There's animated and then there's just annoying. And you're doing too much to get a moment. That's what Courtney's on. Courtney thought that she would solidify her spot as a full-time cast member with these antics. I want Shereé to stop bringing all these friends of hers on this show. Because both of her friends, the one from last year was a nut. This woman right now is another nut. I don't need to see any more of Shereé's friends. I barely want to see Shereé on my screen. I thought it was funny when Shereé walked over with Courtney and Shereé's like, Candy, what happened? Candy said, look, I don't want to relive this situation. And I agree, I'm the same way. If you and I get into it, let me cool off. Don't come around me trying to talk and no, I need some time apart from you. Please. Back up, give me 50 feet. Because when I'm angry at somebody, I do not want to see you. We can talk about this another day, but we're not going to talk about it right now. Now, here's where things really went left. You have Shereé bringing up the Martell drama to Candy, and she's like, well, the ladies told me a few minutes ago that the streets are talking about Martell, saying that he's dating these other women. So Candy's like, look, you always said that you want to know stuff, so here it is. Now, Candy, we all know that Shereé does not mean what she says, and Shereé is somebody who does not want to hear the truth. That's why her life is the way that it is. That's why She by Shereé is in the state that it's in, because Shereé does not want to hear anything that she does not want to hear. She wants people to blow smoke up her ass and tell her that it's all sunshine and rainbows when it's not. Shereé really has an issue with the truth. So for you to say, well, girl, you told me to tell you the truth, don't even bother wasting your breath, because when it comes to Shereé, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. Also, Shereé is one of those women where she wants to turn a blind eye. She says that she wants to know, but she really doesn't want to know. And unfortunately, a lot of women act so hard up and pressed for a man. They act like, oh my gosh, if I lose this man, I'm not going to find another one. So because of that, they don't want to hear the truth about their man. They would rather be mad at the other women that their man is messing with versus changing the man. And I know that on the internet, it's popular to say, oh yeah, girl, you know, I have high self-esteem, I would leave him. But in real life, a lot of women, unfortunately, don't feel that way. And they will put up with cheating, lying, disrespect, just to say that they have a piece of a man. And it's very pathetic. And Shereé, unfortunately, falls under that category of a pick-me at her big age. So when it comes to Shereé wanting to know the truth, no, she doesn't. So don't even waste your breath. Don't even waste your time telling her anything. Let her keep her head in the sand and let the chips fall where they may, and she'll find out the hard way. That's pretty much it. I wouldn't tell Shereé a damn thing. And I'm still laughing at Shereé saying that she's a Ferrari. Baby, that self-esteem is a hoopty. Shereé's self-worth, it's non-existent. And again, that's no shade, it's just the truth. Because somebody who really values himself and thinks that they're the prize would not put up with men like Bob, Tyrone, and Martell. And that's just a fact. So of course, Shereé is getting defensive, talking about, if you're gonna tell me a story, tell me the full story. I need receipts. Sis, Kenya showed you the receipts. She showed you that Martell did indeed DM her. What more do you need? And just like I said a few minutes ago, you can't have a real conversation with Shereé because Shereé can't be real with herself. So Candy's like, look, Shereé, how do you feel that Martell was sliding in Kenya's DMs first? So now Martell walks over, and of course all hell breaks loose. So of course Martell's being sarcastic and rude. He makes a comment saying, well, I bet if you go through all of her DMs, she responds to everybody. So Kenya's like, excuse me, what? And I was thinking, I bet if we check your phone, Martell, we'll see that you're in everybody's DMs. The same way you were laying it low and spreading it wide. Shout out to Evelyn Braxton. That show was a hot mess. Braxton Family Values. But again, I digress. But the same way that you were running through everybody in Huntsville, Alabama, I can very well assume that you were out here in these streets in other cities DMing women. So don't act like Kenya's at fault because she has the proof. So even Candy's appalled. She's like, oh no, he's up here trying to deny that he DM'd you. Kenya, pull up your DMs, please. So since Martell is caught, he's like, well, look, I was in her DMs, but that was 2 years ago, not 6 months ago. So Candy's like, I'm not believing Martell's story because yes, he might have DM'd her 2 years ago, but he could have also deleted the message that shows that he DM'd her 6 months ago. So again, Martell, I'm not buying this story. Now, I was completely blown when Martell walked away and said, I don't care if I was trying to F you 2 years ago, why are you still talking about it? I'm like, Martell, do you hear yourself? So you just told on yourself that you were trying to get with Kenya 2 years ago. And Shereé's so dumb, she's sitting there getting mad at Kenya and then following behind Martell. So now you have Kenya pissed that Martell cursed to her. She's like, don't ever talk to me like that. And then she's like, you're a cheater. You dogged out your ex-wife. You're going to do the same thing to Shereé next. And I'm thinking, again, I agree because Martell has a proven track record of being disrespectful and disgusting. You cannot tell me that a man who could cheat for years on end on his first wife and then ended up getting his mistress pregnant and left her high and dry is going to respect you. I was just saying this on my last live. Women need to stop thinking that they are the exception. You're not. If he dogged out the last 9 women, you're going to be next, sis. He might be treating you well right now, but best believe when the honeymoon phase is over and things get real, you'll be next. And Shereé fails to see that because no way would Martell be anywhere near me. And the way Kenya was wasting her breath, trying to talk sense into Shereé, she's like, Shereé, you dealt with this man before. Your ex-husband Bob was just like Martell. Like, what are you doing? And Shereé's talking about, I mean, yeah, I'm going to straighten him out. Like, don't worry. But why are you creating a narrative and trying to make something out of nothing? And it's like, Shereé, what's not clicking? What is going on up there in your brain, Shereé? I'm serious. You don't understand why everybody else is a bit concerned and alarmed that you're with this man? And I was really irritated to hear Shereé talk about she's upset and the fact that Kenya's trying to humiliate her. I was like, Shereé, Nobody's trying to humiliate you. Also, Shereé, it's quite comical that you of all people is talking about somebody's trying to humiliate you. Let's go back to season 1, episode 1, where you embarrassed Nene by leaving her name off the guest list to your 38th birthday party. Let's talk about that. So you're allowed to humiliate other people, but when the same things return to you, you can't take it. Got it. One thing about it, I have never liked Shereé. From the first episode, I clocked that she was delusional, fraudulent, suffered from delusions of grandeur, a phony, a wannabe, talking about, oh yeah, I'm part of the wealthy elite. Who talks like that? When you really have money, you don't have to say it. People just know it. And by season 2, everything was gone. House was foreclosed on. She has always been a very irritating individual. And it's fitting that she's with Martell. But you guys told me down in the comments in last week's recap that Martell is out there on his show denying that they're even together. He's up there calling Shereé his friend. You're doing all this for your man, trying to stick beside him, and he's up there playing you to the left, saying that, oh, we're just friends. Embarrassing. And Martell, all you had to do was own it and say, you know what? I was in Kenya's DMs a few years ago. It is what it is. I'm with Shereé now. But all these theatrics, cursing at her and trying to low-key slut-shame her, like, that was so unnecessary. It's just real whack behavior. I don't think you guys understand how hard I rolled my eyes when Martell and Shereé left the party, and when they were in the car, and Martell said, I deserve respect too, because just like they're queens, I'm a king, and they need to respect me. And then Shereé's sitting there looking so goofy, talk about, yeah. I said, if y'all both don't shut the hell up. Martell, how old are you? Talk about, I'm a king. Like, shut up. You're a king, but come to find out your ex-wife Melody is the one with the builder's license and all the money. But you're the king, right? Got it. A king with no kingdom. I said, shout out to Cynthia G. That's immediately who I thought of when Martell started calling himself a king. And Miss Shereé, a pick-me supreme over this raggedy dude who's a serial cheater and has been displaying degenerate behavior on his show for years. But it makes sense though, a match made in hell. They are both two sides of the same coin, so it doesn't surprise me that they would be attracted to each other. Now, this next scene with Drew coming back from Chicago, I'm not even gonna hold you guys. It had me a bit emotional, so we might just have to breeze on through it because May 15th, well, it's today, but when this video comes out, it's gonna be yesterday. But that's the day of the anniversary of my dad's passing. And it's been 2 years. So when Drew was talking about her father and how he has Alzheimer's, he's in a nursing home, he's in a wheelchair, and she showed that video of him in the bed, I almost lost it. I was like, Drew, my prayers go out to you and your family because it's very hard. And with my dad, he was super healthy. He was young. He had just turned 61. Like, he was in great shape, didn't smoke, didn't drink, just the sweetest. And he got diagnosed with cancer, like, out of nowhere. I did a video talking about it. I'm not going to make you emotional talking about this, but just seeing her dad, it just had me emotional. But seeing my dad go from, a really strong, healthy guy to deteriorating before our very eyes in 7 months was very jarring. But Drew, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. Yeah, it just had me very emotional. But Drew is back from Chicago, and I thought it was sweet to see her kids and Ralph have balloons and fruit and flowers for her. That was cute. But it was also a bit like, now, Drew, why are you trying to pretend like you and Ralph are in a happy place? Because we already know that we're going to see you guys file for divorce. And we know that your marriage has been on shaky ground since you guys got together. So to see them play like, oh, we're just so happy, we're so great, we've been in this great place for like a few months now, that's not the case. You're just fooling yourself. And Ralph is pretending to be this supportive, amazing husband when we all know that he's not. So that was painful to watch as well. And when Drew was asking Ralph about Ross's party, I was like, Ralph, you should have been in Chicago with your wife. You should not have been here in Atlanta going to a party. Period, point blank. But Drew discussing how she wants to get back into music, how music was always her first passion, her first love, but her career never hit like that. I mean, I'm all for going for your dreams and always trying, but when Drew was talking about she produced and did a song with Ralph, I'm like, you don't need to involve this man in your business endeavors. Stick to the music and the acting and let Ralph do his own thing. And now since you guys are getting a divorce, I'm sure he's gonna want money off of that song that you guys collabed on. And also finding out that Courtney and Ralph are cousins. I think Courtney said that her dad's sister is Ralph's grand aunt. But I was like, yeah, it makes sense. You guys are two thirsty individuals. Now, when we jumped to Sonia and Candy meeting up for lunch, I was getting more and more aggravated with Sonia as the scene went on. I was like, Sonia, just stop talking. But we learned from Candy that her and Sonia have grown pretty close. For spring break, they all went to Disney World with their kids and they had a great time. Now, after that stunt that Sonia pulled, inviting somebody who doesn't like me to the party and not telling me about that, me and her would not be traveling again. I'd be done. If I were Candy, I'd be real cool on Sonia going forward, but that's just me. So now Candy's asking Sonia how she's been doing, and Sonia's like, the whole arrangement with my parents and my sister and brother-in-law and their kids living with us, it's been a bit draining. Ross wants them all out. He wants our home back, just the three of us. And I'm like, rightfully so. Because there's no way that all those grown people would be living rent-free in my home. The parents would have been out, and the sister especially, and that deadbeat brother-in-law would have been out. They wouldn't even have been in. Let's just talk about that. They would have had to find their own place the minute they came to Atlanta. And then when Sonia said, yeah, my sister is just so over it, I said, well, if your sister is so over it, then why is she still living in your house rent-free with her grown husband? And shout out to you guys who let me know in last week's recap that when they had their show on WeTV a few years ago, Sonia's brother-in-law had been a deadbeat. How he couldn't keep a job, and how he was cheating on Sonia's sister. So it's been a mess since jump. And I know Ross can't be too happy with having your parents there and your sister and brother-in-law and their kids there. It's time for them all to spread their wings and get their own place. And I'm still not over Sonia's sister calling her a dingbat, because absolutely not. So now Sonia's asking Candy how she's doing, how's Todd doing, and Candy starts talking about how Todd feels slighted and he feels like he's always pouring into Candy in her dreams, but he doesn't feel the same support from Candy when it comes to his dreams. So she brings up how Todd is working on this movie and he wants her help. Now, I'm not going to say too much, but if you've been following me for quite some time, then you already know where I'm going with this. Todd, in my personal opinion, feels very resentful that his wife is the star in this marriage. And I don't care who wants to fight me down in these comments. I will keep saying this until the cows come home. It does not work when it's the woman who is the breadwinner in a marriage. I feel like men's egos are way too fragile and they cannot handle being number two. But that's another topic and another video for another day. But I really believe that we are seeing resentment kick in. I feel like Todd is trying to compete with Candy. Like, I'm successful too. You're not the only one. And that's why he's so hell-bent on producing a movie. But again, just my 2 cents. So now Sonya brings up Ross's party. She's like, did you have fun? And I'm thinking, Sonya, you're not too bright. You saw Candy get into it with Courtney. Why would you even ask her if she had a good time? Like, let's just use our heads right now. So Candy's like, I mean, I was having fun until that bobblehead came into my face cursing me out. I don't even know her. So Sonya's like, well, I met her last week at Shereé's house and she had some things to say about you. She said that you went to some event and you brought the hood out. So Candy did just what I would have done. She's like, look, when she called me ghetto, what did you say, Sonya? Did you stick up for me or were you on mute? So here goes Sonya. She's stuttering like Shereé.
Tell her, boo-boo kitty. I'm she. Oh, now you can't speak English.
And she's like, well, you see what happened was when Courtney called you ghetto, all I said was, Candy's my friend and maybe you should sit down and talk to her. So Candy's like, oh, okay. So clearly you didn't say anything to defend me. You just sat there. And we saw that when Courtney did call Candy ghetto, Sonya was over there laughing like it was the funniest thing. Again, I'm not here for Sonya. I think that Sonya is very phony. She's too concerned about being with the popular girls. But Sonya, like I've been saying, you're with the losing team. Because Shereé, Marlo, and Courtney, all of them are clowns. And that's who you want to align yourself with? Got it. But again, Candy, why are you even surprised? We know that Sonya can barely articulate herself and defend her own self. She was up there getting read down by Kenya when they were in Jamaica last season. So why would you even think that Sonya could jump in and defend you? Now, this next scene with Candy and Todd, I'm not gonna hold you. Candy's storyline, opening up all these businesses, I'm tired. And at this point, I feel like this show has become an infomercial for Candy, where she's always launching a new restaurant or new product. And again, give us something else. But when Todd was talking about he wants to open up a Mexican restaurant and then a pizza shop, I was like, Todd, what's this obsession with trying to open up all these restaurants? Both old lady gangs have issues. One of the restaurants couldn't pass the health inspection. So focus on these 3 restaurants that you guys have and not trying to build another one. And then you guys are always complaining about you don't have any time for each other or for your kids. So why would you want to build yet another restaurant? So Todd starts talking about he's made so much money off the restaurants and he could stack his restaurant money to fund and direct his movies. Now, I will say when they brought the food out for them to taste test for the new menu, they brought out a crab burger, shrimp scampi, and some wings. Not gonna hold you, that food looked really good. My mouth was low-key watering. And a quick question. I know a lot of you guys do live in Atlanta. Do you guys go to Blaze? Have you been to Blaze? What are your thoughts? Is the food good? Are the drinks good? Let me know. But as they're eating, they're talking to Melvin, who happens to be Candy's cousin, and he's also the chef. He was also on the spinoff Candy and the Gang as well. And mind you, Melvin's arm is in a sling. So as they're talking and eating, the producer comes out and he's like, so you guys aren't going to address the elephant in the room? And Candy and Todd are like, no, it's a legal situation. We don't want to speak about it. And the way that producer looked at them like, I don't care if it is a legal situation, you better talk about it. I said, I know that's right. He said, Candy, you guys will not be up here playing in our faces. If you want your check, mama, you have to work for it. Give us the tea. What happened? So we see the headlines of how there was a shooting at Blaze. And so Candy's telling us in her confessional that this gentleman came into work one night. He was a bit drunk, a bit irate. Him and Melvin got into an argument outside. and the man shot Melvin. Thank God it wasn't tragic. Melvin is okay, but it is a bad look for business. Now, Shereé had to be real extra with it, talking about, well, we don't know when we go to Old Lady Gang or Blaze if we're getting biscuits or bullets. I said, Shereé, shut up. We don't know what we're getting when you come on our screens every season. You give us nothing. Nothing but failure, a messed up clothing line made of cheap fabrics, and a fake romance with a man who has 5 children and a serial cheater. So not too much. Oh, and one last thing. I caught that part when Kandi said that Blaze is in a very urban part of Atlanta. And I want to know from you guys, where is Blaze located? And I'm surprised that you would put a high-end steakhouse in an area that's not that great. But then again, Kandi's also kind of cheap, so I'm not surprised. But anyhow, I digress. But let me know down in the comments, where is Blaze at? Is it in a good neighborhood or is it in an up-and-coming neighborhood? This scene with Kenya and Brooklyn playing tennis, with Kenya's friend Akilah and Brooklyn's best friend, that was adorable. And also, I like Akilah a lot. I think she would make a great full-time cast member, if I'm being honest. She needs to go on ahead and replace Marlo or Shereé. I think that Akilah's pretty. She seems really cool, just natural in front of the cameras, not doing too much. Her and Kenya have a real friendship. She's married to an NFL player, so there's some money involved. And I'm like, yeah, I like her vibe. Bring her on for season 16. But they're hanging out, talking. Akilah's asking her how she's been, if there's any men in the picture. Kenya says that she's dating this guy named Roy. He makes her feel like a woman again. She feels good. He's successful. He's handsome. He's sweet. He's kind. And he also has a long coin too, because he's the CEO of Kale Me Crazy. So I was like, okay, sis, I know that's right. And once again, Manietta, if you're watching this video, please hit me up in my DMs or email me and let me know if you have any more friends like Roy, okay? Because that is my type. So we see Kenya telling Akilah what happened at Ross's party. She's like, girl, Martell was so aggressive. He was cursing at me. And Shereé didn't even defend me. And then she goes on to say that she can't believe Shereé would even defend that behavior, knowing that her and Shereé have been through it when it comes to men. We remember that relationship that Kenya had with Matt, that 28-year-old trainer who was broke and also abusive, and he busted Kenya's windows out of her garage. That was a hot mess. And I'm so glad that she got rid of him, because, Matt, I could have told you that that was not going to work. The age and the income gap? Absolutely not. But Kenya's like, Shereé is clearly dickmatized, and Akilah had me screaming. She said, not dickmatized, not at that big age. And I said, exactly, because Shereé is too damn old. She knows better. The parallel scene with Shereé and Sonya out to dinner, and Shereé is talking about how she's a glamma now. Her son Cairo has a child. And I will say that Shereé's granddaughter is so cute. Absolutely adorable. And you would think that Shereé being a grandma now would make her nicer. But in fact, she's still the same. But anyhow, they start talking about Sonya's party. Shereé's like, girl, what was the budget? Because you did that. Sonya's like, oh yeah, there was no budget. So they toast to that. And of course, Shereé brings up how she was upset with Kenya about her and Martell getting into it. So she's like, Kenya's always labeling black men as aggressive. She needs to stop that. First, it was your husband. Now it's Martell. And I'm like, Shereé, can you please stop? This is not everybody's against a black man trying to keep the black man down. Enough with that. That's not what it is. You should have checked Martell when he got nasty with your friend, period, point blank. Him trying to slut shame Kenya and then cursing at her, that was unacceptable. If Martell was innocent, all he had to say was, Kenya, that's not true. Or, you know what, Kenya, that was 2 years ago. I did it. Let's move on from that. But Martell being smug and all that extra stuff, that's a no for me. And Shereé is just so happy to have a man, my man, my man, my man. She didn't care what he said to Kenya. And when Shereé said, he might not be 100% correct, but you need to take accountability for what you did, Kenya. And I'm thinking, okay, Shereé, I'm just so over Shereé. I really am. And her logic never makes any sense. And Shereé, nobody came to you with half-ass information, so stop saying that. You just don't want to hear the truth. That's what it is. Be honest with yourself for once. And then hearing Shereé say, me and Kenya, we're in a great place, but all this stuff now with Martell, I don't know where we stand. We need to have a talk. And it's like, again, Shereé, why are you this angry at Kenya? I could understand you being annoyed at her divulging that your man was in her DMs some time ago, but for you to be this angry where you're questioning the state of your friendship and now you're shading her on Twitter, you look and sound crazy. Now, this last scene really had me screaming for multiple reasons. We see Shereé at her distribution center where she has these 2 employees doing all these orders of She by Shereé. So I think they said that they had 273 orders to go through. And I'm thinking, I don't know why 273 people are spending their hard-earned money buying She by Shereé. I'm confused and I want to know who you guys are, because why? And I also want to know, was Shereé paying those employees? Because we know that Shereé don't like to pay. And most times she can't pay. Probably paying them $5 an hour and telling them, well, it's okay because you're going to get some TV time. With the reputation that Shereé has around the city, I am so surprised that anybody would say yes to working with her. So Shereé says that after her fashion show last year, she was on cloud 9. She was so happy. It was a success. But then when her website crashed, she lost a lot of money and everybody and their mama had something to say about it. And I'm like, Shereé, why are you confused that we all talked about it? Because this has been in the making for what, 14 years? And you finally have this fashion show, you finally have the clothes, and the website crashes and nobody can buy anything? Of course people are going to clown you. And I got my entire life when they showed Kempire on their reporting about when Shereé's website crashed. I said, I know that's right, Kempire. Shereé, until you do right by people, until you hire a team of experts who can seriously launch your business off the ground, and until you're willing to pay people, She by Shereé is not going to do anything. I don't understand why you can't seem to realize that. You have to spend money to make money. That's just how this goes. So we see Kenya show up. She's like, hey girl, what's up? I just got back from LA. Kenya's talking about how she filmed the DirecTV commercial with Teresa and Kyle. And shout out to my pals over at DirecTV, okay? And you guys know that I have a partnership with DirecTV, so shout out to them. So anyhow, Kenya points out that Shereé's logo sort of resembles the Dallas Cowboys logo, and even Shereé has to laugh. She's like, yeah, you know what, you're right. And I was like, oh my gosh, Kenya's right. It actually does resemble the Dallas Cowboys logo. And I'm thinking, Shereé, you might want to change that logo because you might get sued. But anyhow, they start talking about dating. Shereé's asking Kenya about Roy. Kenya's like, I feel so alive. I feel like a woman. And Shereé's like, that's great. That's what dating should do. And so Kenya's asking her about Martell. And she's like, well, it seems like you and Martell are pretty serious. So Shereé's like, no, we're just dating, that's it. Now, Shereé, you and Martell can't keep your story straight because one minute you guys are boyfriend and girlfriend, the next minute it's just casual, we're just dating. Then you have Martell on his show talking about, well, that's just my friend. So which one is it? So Shereé goes on to say that her and Martell have a lot in common. They're both Capricorns. Their birthdays, I think, are 2 days apart. So Kenya's like, well, that's interesting because I generally get along really well with Capricorns, but when it comes to Martell, me and him don't see eye to eye. So she goes on to say that it did not have to go left between her and Martell, and that she wasn't trying to attack him. So then Sheree's like, but you didn't have to go there in the first place. And I'm thinking, Shereé, Martell is the one who really popped off the whole argument in the first place. He didn't have to curse at her and then slut shame her. And when Kenya said, so I deserve to be cursed at? And all Shereé could say was, but you didn't have to go there. And it's like, but Shereé, what aren't you getting? That this whole thing did not have to be this big blowout. They could have had a nice conversation like two adults, but your man over there decided to just be petty and rude for no reason. He escalated this whole entire thing. And Shereé, you're doing all this for a man who does not value or respect you. And then when Shereé said, oh yeah, and you're saying that it was 6 months ago and it was 2 years ago, Martell already told me this when we first met. We laid it all out on the line and he told me that he was in your DMs. Now, Shereé, that's how I know that you're lying. Because if this is true, you would have said that to Kenya when Kenya told you this at the party. You didn't know that. You found out like everybody else did. Just always lying. And what really gets me about Shereé is that she really thinks that we're stupid. And was anybody else really annoyed when Shereé was like, I'm just so appalled that Kenya can't take accountability for her actions? And I'm like, Shereé, are we in the Twilight Zone? Shereé was out here dogging Candy out all last season, and when she was confronted about it at the reunion, she never even apologized or acknowledged that what she said was wrong. So for her to have the audacity and the gall to say that somebody else is not taking ownership, that's really comical. The rest of this scene really pissed me off. Kenya and Shereé going back and forth. Nothing is getting through Shereé's head. You have Shereé dismissing every single point that Kenya is making. And what really killed me, when Shereé went on and said, I don't understand her issue with always calling black men aggressive. Are they public enemy number one because she doesn't have one? I said, oh, Shereé, you want to go down that road? But for Shereé to act like Martell is some prize and Kenya is jealous that she's not with a black man right now, you are sadly mistaken. Kenya is doing just fine with her new man, Roy. I feel really sorry for Shereé because Shereé, you are so male identified, and like I've been saying, you're a pick-me. This is not a black man versus black woman issue. This is just a respect thing. Martell is disrespectful. Martell cannot answer a simple question because he knows that he's wrong, he knows that he's guilty, and he probably was up to no good in those DMs when he hit up Kenya in the first place. I've said this before in many recaps. I don't think that Shereé is capable of being a genuine friend. And I have always felt like the friendship between Kenya and Shereé is very lopsided. I think that Kenya actually likes Shereé as a person and a friend, whereas Shereé is only putting up with Kenya because of a check. I think that it's very much Kenya's more into Shereé than Shereé is into Kenya. And the fact that several seasons ago, when they were in Hawaii and Bob made that nasty joke saying that he would choke Shereé out or he didn't choke Shereé hard enough and Shereé was crying, nobody else comforted her except for Kenya. And they were on the outs at the time. So for Shereé to be so nasty and so rude to Kenya, it's very telling. But Shereé and Kenya still go at it, and you have Kenya saying, you know what, Shereé, at this point, we're gonna have to agree to disagree because we're not seeing eye to eye. And I said, Kenya, please hold your breath when it comes to Shereé, because Shereé is always going to be willfully obtuse, especially when it comes to a man. So don't even waste any more energy trying to get Shereé to see things from your perspective. But y'all, that's where the episode ends, and I have to say, it was a solid episode, and I really do think that season 15 is about to give what the other girls were supposed to have gave, in the words of Rolling Ray. I really am hopeful. This season definitely feels a lot fresher than the last 3 seasons, okay? So again, I'm hopeful. These first 2 episodes have been pretty good, and again, I can't wait to see what happens next. But y'all, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.